Finally,
Yeah.
Timur unleashed his 32 elephants.
Oh!
Through the din of battle,
Okay, let's see what these elephants are made of. Alright, Battle of Ankara, a lot of people have been really wanting me to react to this. We're finally here.
Ottoman armies pushed the border of Islam into Europe. Disastrous defeat suffered by the Christians.
And just to let you know, this is a part of my Ottoman Rise of the Ottoman Empire in chronological order reaction, but a lot of people told me that History Marche, Battle of Ankara, is the best version.
At Maritsa, Kosovo, and Nicopolis reverberated across the West. European rulers would not challenge the Ottomans for another 50 years. Sultan Bayezid, returning across the Bosphorus Strait, had continued the expansion into Anatolia. A formidable empire was forming, stretching from the Danube to the Euphrates. Meanwhile, another powerful empire emerged in the east.
What is this?
Proclaimed himself heir to the Ilkhanids and their right to rule over Anatolia. Poised to re-establish the Mongol Empire, he marched west into Ottoman territory.
Oh!
20th of July 1402.
Ooh, okay. Okay, so he's a Mongol. Oh, yo, that's even more hype.
Point in the history of Anatolia and the Balkans. On that day, two of the greatest conquerors of their time met on the dusty plain outside Ankara. Compared to medieval times, today we have...
I am broke, brother.
Bayezid's troops captured the remnants of the Christian army and led them in chains on a trek to Gallipoli. King Sigismund of Hungary was among the few who managed to escape the carnage. Fearing the long march back home, he embarked on a journey down the Danube and sailed towards Constantinople, intending to reach Hungary by sea. His troops were less fortunate, lingering in captivity for 2 years. They were sold to a French delegation for a sum equal to 700 kilograms of gold.
How much is that in today's money?
Victorious Sultan Bayezid pacified the rebellious Vuk Brankovic of Serbia and destroyed the recalcitrant Tsardom of Vidin, sending its ruler to Basra, where he died in captivity.
Bayezid is just built different.
By now, the master of the Balkan Peninsula, and with the prestige of being the Sultan of Rum, Bayezid had proved more than equal to his forefathers. But these possessions were divided by the Sea of Marmara and the Dardanelles. This meant that a campaign on one side usually resulted in rebellion on the other. Bayezid was preoccupied with the crusade of Nicopolis. The Bey of Karaman took Ankara by force in 1396. He captured the Ottoman...
Bad mistake. Bad mistake.
Anatolia, a grave insult to the court in Adrianople.
Yeah. He's not gonna let that slide. The retribution. Oh, he's not gonna let that slide.
In 1397, with the European threat gone, Bayezid crossed into Anatolia once more. The Ottoman dynasty had long defined itself as Ghazis, meaning warriors of the faith. But they were often at war with their Muslim brethren for dominance in Anatolia. Bayezid's swift march reflected his moniker, the Thunderbolt.
Wait a minute. Ottomans are Turkic people. So, when did they convert to Islam? Now that I think about it, when did they convert to Islam? And how? I would love to know that.
The Ottoman Sultan reduced the Karamed forces at Konya before capturing and executing Ali Bey. He continued...
Wait. Were Turkic people always Islamic? Or am I tripping? I feel like Turkic people had their own beliefs If I'm not, I don't know. I feel like I'm tripping. Someone answer that for me.
Continued the eastward push in 1398, using the instability in the region to capture Sivas and much of the Eretna Beylik. In doing so, Ottoman domination over Anatolia was established. A year later, in 1399, Bayezid exploited the death of the Mamluk Sultan Berkuk to cross the Taurus Mountains. Berkuk's son and heir, Ferek, was only 10 years old and unable to mount a defense. The conquest of the Latium region was an important step, for it gave
he didn't have a regent or something? He didn't oh my goodness, okay.
Access to the Euphrates, a vital logistical waterway. Moreover, with the Taurus Mountains behind him, the road into the plains of northern Syria was now open. Bayezid's aggressive policy in the east was a resounding success, but it brought him into conflict with another emerging superpower.
That is a huge empire, man.
Nearly 30 years before, in 1370, then a little-known Turco-Mongol Amur in Transoxania, Timur established his domain with Samarkand as the capital. He used the waning influence of the Chagatai Khanate, one of the successor states of Genghis Khan's great empire, to impose his rule on much of Central Asia.
Dog, is this? He started out that small. He started out that. Jeez.
Timur spent the next 30 years on campaign. Much like the Mongols did a century before, he took the medieval world by storm. In spectacular fashion, Timur expanded his empire into India and the Middle East.
I never heard of this guy.
Battles and successfully besieging the most formidable of cities. His raiding expeditions took him across the Caucasus Mountains, beyond the banks of the Volga River, defeating the armies of the Mongol Golden Horde and sacking countless cities, reaching not far from Moscow itself, before turning back south, ravaging...
No, he reached that far? He reached...
his way towards the rich coastal cities of the Crimean Peninsula.
Okay, he is him.
Took him east to the Ural River before he returned to friendly territory.
Alright, I'm not gonna sleep on this guy.
Destruction 10,000 kilometers long, so effective that it permanently weakened the Golden Horde, ending their grip over Russia.
Yo! This dude was the reason why the Tartar... Well, one of the reasons why the Tartar yoke was able to be casted out of... okay. Alright, this dude's a menace, okay.
By the year 1400, Timur was an awe-inspiring war leader, known across Asia and Europe. His formidable army was composed of grizzled veterans who rode with him across 2 continents.
I like this guy. I hope you beat the Ottomans. When the enemy smiles, he knows your secret.
Proclaiming himself heir to the Ilkhanids and the Seljuks, Timur claimed the right to rule over Anatolia. To this end, he sought alliances in the region. The heirs to the Beyliks of Eretna and Karaman, recently conquered by Bayezid, accepted Timur's offer in the hope of receiving military aid to re-establish their rule.
I'm surprised that they still have diplomats and envoys or whatever the heck you call it, despite the fact that they were freaking conquered. Wouldn't Bayezid make sure that they don't have that, or did they simply just escape?
Turkic nobles from conquered Beyliks in western Anatolia also flocked to Timur, fleeing Bayezid's attempts to exterminate local dynasties and establish central Ottoman authority in Anatolia.
Okay, so they fled. Okay.
Conversely, Timur's own expansion drove out the ruling elite of Iraq, Persia, and Azerbaijan, who sought refuge at Bayezid's court.
Oh,
Most
so it's
notable of these.
It's eye for an eye. Okay, eye for an eye
These
situation. Freaking, freaking LARPing Hammurabi's code.
Sultan Ahmad Jalayir and Sultan Kara Yusuf. Offering protection to each other's political rivals paved the way for war.
Yep,
Perhaps
yep.
most significantly, the Mamluk Sultanate, pressured by Timur, accepted his suzerainty, albeit only nominally. Still, this was enough to secure his southern flank.
Yeah.
Timur could now turn his armies squarely against the Ottomans.
Yo, my question is, what is going on in the Arabian Peninsula? What are the Arabs doing at this point? What are they doing?
For war came in the year 1400, when Bayezid sent a letter to Mutahatin, the emir of the city of Erzincan, who recently sided with Timur. Bayezid demanded obedience and tribute paid. Mutahatin refused, instead showing the letter to Timur and appealing for his help. Aware that he cannot allow his vassals to be harassed, Timur threatened Bayezid, writing, "Be content with the lands you seized from the unbelievers, but return the provinces you stole from fellow Muslims, or I will be their avenger."
Yo! 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 Nah, bro. Nah, bro. Nah, that is hard. That is hard. That is one of the hardest quotes I have. Yo! I love this guy already.
Bayezid returned an insult in kind, ordering the beards of Timur's envoys to be shaved, before returning them to their master in disgrace, with a message, "I will come find you, and if you refuse to fight me, I will chase you to India if I have to."
Yo! Nah, bro, this is hype.
Negotiations were over.
This is hype.
In mid-August 1400, Timur advanced along the Halys River, intending to besiege Sivas, the first step in his planned invasion of Anatolia. Bayezid was preoccupied with the siege of Constantinople and could not respond to the incursion.
Bro, I swear, this dude has always been... Like, the Ottomans just had so many attempts to try and take Constantinople, man. Jeez.
Prepared to muster an army and had sent envoys to the Mamluk Sultan, suggesting they join forces against the Tatar invaders. Ferek was not impressed, but kept the lines of communication open with the Ottoman court. When Timur's spies informed him of the diplomatic talks taking place between Bayezid and Ferek, he sent envoys of his own to demand...
Wait. You got spies? You got spies? How in the world would spying in 1402 work? What in the world? And how would that be accurate information? Spies? Okay.
to reaffirm his suzerainty over the Mamluks. What transpired at the meeting...
Okay, I could imagine that, I don't know, freaking, like, someone will be sent over there just to chill in the Mamluk Sultanate, I guess. Like, a few people will be sent over to chill in the Mamluk Sultanate, you know, pretending to be loyal or whatever. And, you know, if anything crazy happens, one of them would go and report back, I guess. These communications would take a while, would it not? So how in the world would that... Okay.
...is unknown, but it ended with the arrest and execution of the Timurid envoys.
Oh
By
no.
early September, Timur captured Sivas Castle, then proceeded to burn and destroy it, killing 4,000 Ottoman Sipahis in the process. The Muslim population was spared, but the Armenian Christians were put to the sword wholesale, many burned alive. Then, instead of continuing the planned invasion of Anatolia, he turned south to reassert his authority over the Mamluks.
Now, my question is, The Mamluks. Damn. The Mamluks may have saved Bayezid. The Mamluks may have saved them. I don't know yet. I don't know how this ends, but if this ends in Bayezid's favor, it's probably because of the Mamluk.
In his army,
Alright.
the multiple columns crisscrossed the Taurus Mountains, leaving destruction in their wake. A not-so-subtle reminder of the fate that would befall all those who oppose him. Timurid forces devastated.
Yo, this dude. Yeah, he's a true Mongol for real. He's a true Mongol. Classic Mongol tactics. Like submit to me, I spare you, but you defy me. Oh my goodness, this is actually
the cities of Elbistan and Malatya before descending into Syria. The city of Adıyaman fell soon after, and the fortress of Besni was overrun.
dude
Next was the city of
unstoppable.
Antep. By
Was it
now,
Antioch?
the Mamluks had gathered near Aleppo under the command of Timur Tash. On the 30th of October, Timur defeated the Mamluk army and entered the city of Aleppo. The citadel surrendered by the 3rd of November. Continuing south, the Timurids were met with little resistance. The local
Sweet.
garrisons were unable to
Sweet.
cope with the large mobile army that swept them aside as they went. Hama, Homs and Baalbek were pillaged. By November, Timur besieged Damascus.
What is Bayezid
Throughout November
doing
and December,
throughout all this?
Sultan Ferek's forces gathered to the south in preparation to relieve the city.
Yeah, that's not happening.
25th of December, the Mamluk army attacked the Timurid siege lines. But once again, they were defeated and repulsed. The siege of Damascus continued until it was captured in January 1401. Subsequently, the city was sacked and set ablaze. 2 months later, in March, Timur finally departed Damascus, taking with him thousands of craftsmen, writers and scholars, including the famous Ibn Arabsha. The punitive expedition into Syria struck fear into Sultan Ferek, thus erasing any chance of an alliance between the Mamluks and the Ottomans. Bayezid remained busy at Constantinople, sensing that he was on the verge of capturing the ancient capital of the Roman emperors.
Wait. So Timur just decides to go back? He just decides to go back? He doesn't press on? Oh, come on, Timur. That might.
Although Constantinople still received supplies via the sea, the sustained pressure was enough to force Emperor Manuel to leave and spend 2 years touring the courts of Europe, begging for help. This left his nephew.
Dude, at this point, the Roman Empire just, the disrespect that the Roman Empire is getting, it's just,
John as the regent in Constantinople. By the spring of 1401, the blockade had lasted for 7 years, taking a significant toll on the city. It was evident from the correspondence between John and Bayezid that the regent of Constantinople considered surrendering the city to the Ottomans, wishing to end the suffering. But Timur, by now back at his headquarters in Karabakh, was not idle.
yeah, what is
To weaken
Timur
Bayezid,
doing?
He opened diplomatic talks with John, the regent of Constantinople,
Ooh.
and Manuel III, the emperor of Trebizond, offering his protection against the Ottomans in return for them providing ships for the Timurid army. Both accepted, galvanized by the offer. Whether Timur was aware of how close Bayezid was to forcing the surrender of Constantinople is not known. But his promise of aid encouraged John to stop all negotiations with the Ottoman Sultan. However, by the time he returned from Syria in the summer of 1401, It was too late in the year to continue the invasion into Anatolia.
What?
Here we go!
To keep his large army active and on the move, he launched his 7th expedition into Georgia to subdue the kingdom and secure his northern flank. The campaign went on for several months. This suited Timur, for he was all too aware that the troops needed to be paid and fed, and with an army numbering over...
Yeah, that is one thing about this time period. It's like, what is the most important thing that you need to do? Bro, you need to keep your troops paid and you need to keep them fed, man. Like, a lot of people grossly overlook that. Like, very important. You have all these great conquerors and people. At the end of the day, yo, without their troops, would not be possible.
Over 100,000 soldiers and non-combatants, this could only be achieved through continued conquest and plunder. Moreover, keeping his emirs close to him on the march prevented them from returning to their homelands and stirring up revolts. Meanwhile, Bayezid, failing to persuade John to surrender the keys to Constantinople, left the siege unattended. He headed east to retake Sivas and capture Erzincan. This campaign, as well as Timur's invasion of Georgia, would be completed by late autumn of 1401.
So Timur indirectly saved Constantinople from falling earlier, because this is 1407, I think, or is it 1409? Somewhere around it, but Constantinople fell in 1453.
As the year drew to a close, both leaders prepared for the inevitable battle. In early 1402, Timur marched his troops out of winter quarters towards the Ottoman border. His emirs, however, advised him against the campaign, arguing that the men were weary after spending 3 years on the march. Moreover, the emirs feared Bayezid's leadership on the battlefield and the resources readily available to him in Anatolia.
Yeah,
Timur remained
he got that home field advantage, bruh.
undeterred. However, he knew that Bayezid was far more formidable than any opponent he had faced before. Timur perhaps secretly viewed Bayezid as his equal. Thus, he sent word to his grandson Muhammad in Samarkand, ordering him to bring fresh troops and join him in Anatolia.
Oh, he's not underestimating him. Oh yeah, okay, that's how you know that he's smart. He's not underestimating his opponent. Yep. Okay, yeah, this guy is truly smart.
Evil accounts, over the next 2 months, the Timurid army swelled up to 140,000, though between 30 and 50% of these were likely camp followers, servants, and slaves. By the spring of 1402, Bayezid massed his own army of some 85,000 troops and camp followers at Basra, in preparation for a march east to meet the invaders.
Let them cook.
2 massive columns crossed the northeastern Ottoman border. Marched along the Trebizond border. The main body, commanded by Timur, advanced through Erzurum and towards Erzincan. Splitting his forces made it possible to move faster through enemy territory. The plan was for the columns to converge on Sivas. Meanwhile, Bayezid's army slowly converged just east of Ankara. By this time, the Timurids reached Sivas, where they were met by Ottoman envoys. Timur received the Ottoman delegation, but as soon as
this is neat. I've never seen this before. Okay. All right, history march. I see you.
He rejected their gift, thereby confirming he did not wish to negotiate a truce. Both parties promptly insisted on their demands, glorifying the strengths of their respective armies in an effort to intimidate each other.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
He listed the many contingents from across his empire, banners from the Asian steppe, Persia, India, Georgia, and other leaders loyal to him. tens of thousands of feared horse archers, contingents of heavy cavalry in plate or mail, a large contingent of elephants from India, a terrifying shock weapon. Timur was confident that this impressive list would intimidate the Ottomans. But
What did the Ottomans have?
Fired back, listing all the great men loyal to Bayezid. Professional infantry at the core of his army, armored feudal Sipahi cavalry. From the Balkans, the heavily armored Serbian cavalry, commanded by Stefan Lazarevic, a substantial...
Yeah, that hurts. That hurts, man. I'm always reminded of the Battle of Kosovo. It's like, Although I had someone explain to me that after the Battle of Kosovo happened, Serbia was just so depleted. I forgot what they told me. I think he said it was like Hungary, that something happened between Serbia and Hungary that forced Serbia to just accept Ottoman vassalization because they were just so depleted. Something like that.
Infantry contingent led by the nobles from Bulgaria and northern Greece. Mounted Kipchak Tatars recruited from Crimea, along with armored Mamluk mercenary cavalry, and thousands of Turkic horsemen and infantry levied from across Anatolia. Once the two parties blew off steam and the shouting match in the tent died down, it was clear that neither side would budge. If either team...
Wait. Hold on a minute. What languages were they speaking? How did they find people that knew how to speak these languages? That's my question. Because back then there was no like international lingua franca like we have in our modern times.
Bayezid's envoys were impressed by the show of force on each side. They didn't show it. Though undoubtedly, neither had ever faced a foe of this strength.
Yeah.
A message from the
From Ankara, Bayezid advanced east to meet the invading menace, after receiving reports that Timur was ravaging the area around Sivas. The Sultan's advisors, however, urged that a defensive line be formed near Ankara to receive the attack, closer to their main supply lines.
Yeah,
It was
that's
not lost
pretty
on the
smart.
Ottoman Sultan that the forested, hilly terrain in the Sivas region would put his majority infantry army at an advantage over the predominantly mounted Timurid force.
Oh.
He was eager to catch his opponent in Sivas. It was now late June, however, and the laborious march in the summer heat took its toll on the troops. About a week later, Timur suddenly moved his forces southwest after receiving reports that Bayezid was closing in, leaving a diversionary force behind to guard the rear.
Right,
He too
Timur.
was aware that the terrain around Sivas did not favor him and wanted to...
Bro, both of these people are like equally smart. Like, how do you counter this, bro? They're equally smart, man. Breaking out.
avoid confronting Bayezid there. Timur marched along the banks of the Hales River, the route he used 2 years prior. His intention was to go around Bayezid and strike Kayseri. There he would stop to rest his troops and gather fodder for the horses, before continuing towards Ankara. Meanwhile, Bayezid had reached Tokat, just to the northwest of the city of Sivas. He clashed with what he thought was Timur's vanguard. Quickly brushing aside the token force, Ottoman scouts dispersed to look for signs of the enemy. Some 2 days later, they found tracks of an army moving towards the southwest. Shocked by the realization that the enemy was now behind him, the Ottoman Sultan faced about and went back the way he came.
So, this is ironic because isn't like Bayezid nickname the lightning like lightning conqueror or something like that? I forgot what his like nickname was, but it's actually kind of hilarious, like hilariously ironic because you'd think that this is something that he'd do.
Timur commanded some 90,000 fighting men, Another 50,000 camp followers tended to the carts, pack animals, and siege weapons. This heavy reliance on the baggage train allowed him to move his massive army quickly through enemy territory without the need to stop to forage. Bayezid, meanwhile, could muster 60,000 troops, which were accompanied by around 20,000 camp followers. Timur's army was clearly the larger one, but not overwhelmingly so. The Sultan from Samarkand reached Ankara with little opposition and put the city to siege. Surveying the flat plain northeast of the city, Timur was satisfied that this is where he would fight Bayezid.
Alright, let him cook.
By the 20th of July, the Thunderbolt reached the battlefield.
Thunderbolt. Not lightning conqueror, Thunderbolt.
Both commanders were aware of each other's military prowess. Bayezid was concerned about Timur's expert ability in leading his mobile nomadic cavalry and horse archers. Timur, on the other hand, worried about Bayezid's tight control of his disciplined professional infantry and astute use of heavy cavalry. Both cautious, Timur deployed with his back to hilly terrain to avoid a potential ambush.
Bro. Do you know how many reactions that I have done where I see these people, they make mistakes like that, and like 9 times out of 10, they get flanked. They get flanked from the back. Bro, Timur, yo. I know I said this so much, but this guy, Timur is him. I love it when I see people with a brain. Freaking hell, man.
Bayezid, meanwhile, anchored his right wing on a ridge and his left wing to the Chubuk stream to protect against flanking attacks. In the center stood the Azep infantry, behind a screen of archers. Behind them were several thousand elite Janissary troops and Kapikulu Sipahi heavy cavalry, Bayezid's most trusted troops. The Sultan took command in the center, together with his sons Isa, Mustafa, and Musa, as well as his Grand Vizier, Chandarlizade Ali Pasha. On the right wing, Bayezid positioned the 5,000-strong Serbian contingent, commanded by his trusted vassal and brother-in-law, Prince Stefan Lazarevic. The Serbian heavy cavalry, clad in black armor, were the heaviest units on the field, famous throughout Europe for their proficiency in battle. Supporting them was the veteran Serbian infantry. Behind them were the Albanian mercenaries and volunteers. Kara Timurtaz Pasha commanded an Anatolian cavalry force alongside Lazarevic's Serbians, taking their place between them and the central front line. On the Ottoman left wing, the Sultan's son and heir Suleiman commanded the cavalry and infantry recruited from the Balkans, mainly from the recently conquered Bulgaria, along with several contingents from the Turkic beyliks of Anatolia. Behind them were the Kipchak Tatar mercenaries from Crimea. Finally, Bayezid's son Mehmet commanded the infantry reserve, which was bolstered...
Wait, is this like Mehmet the Conqueror? Is that the Mehmet the Conqueror?
...the force of Turkoman Kara Koyunlu cavalry. Crucial to the Sultan's plan was the subtle ridge that ran along his battle line. His plan was to use this defendable elevation to offset the numerical superiority of the enemy.
Okay.
On the other side of the battlefield, the Timurid vanguard was comprised of 32 Indian war elephants, which were supplied with early explosive devices, fueled by naphtha, a form of hideously damaging napalm.
I want to see that in action, okay.
After shooting from the boxes atop their backs, one can only imagine the psychological effect these gigantic monsters and the injuries they could inflict had on Bayezid's western troops.
Yeah.
Timur next placed a vast screen of horse archers across his battle line, a standard tactic of nomadic armies.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, classic Mongol tactic. I was literally just about to say that, man.
Tasked with resupplying these riders with arrows, fresh horses, and other provisions during the battle.
Building your own.
Timur's son, Miran Shah, commanded the right wing, composed of Chagatai horse archers, as well as armored cavalry from India, Georgia, and some Mamluk mercenaries. To the left of them was a mix of cavalry from Central Asia and Persia. In the center, Timur took charge of the elite armored cavalry, along with mounted units from Samarkand and contingents of the Surbedari infantry. On the left wing, Timur's son Shah Rukh commanded a large contingent of Chagatai cavalry, joined by Anatolian beys. Supporting them on their right were a mix of Armenian and Turkoman cavalry and footmen, as well as other units recruited from across the Middle East. Finally, Timur's grandson and heir, Muhammad Mirza, was placed in charge of the reserve cavalry force. The battle began about 10 a.m. with the general advance of Timur's army. The horse archers rode ahead, while the rest of the army lagged behind, allowing time for the mounted archers to soften the Ottoman line or bait them into charging into the open. The initial
Look at all of those horse archers, bruh.
Where the ground was flatter and the Ottoman position more vulnerable to envelopment. Timur's nomadic riders on the right were the first to unleash a storm of arrows. Unnerved and taking losses, the Balkan troops nevertheless withstood the volleys.
Alright.
Shortly after, Shah Rukh's archers concentrated their volleys on Lazarevich's contingent. Most of the arrow fire was focused on the Serbian prince's banner, but the projectiles were ineffective against the heavily armored troops.
Wow, so armor actually did its job. I'm not gonna lie to you, I always thought that armor was just there for show. Like, I always thought armor just kinda was like ineffective. Like, I literally always thought that. Like, I never really heard of any cases of armor like actually being effective. Like, never ever. Or maybe I'm ignorant. There's a lot of things I'm ignorant about, but I don't know. Maybe y'all could tell me some cases where armor was actually quite effective.
Confronted with waves of volleys unleashed by the Chagatai riders, the Ottoman foot archers withdrew onto the high ground behind the infantry and continued to respond with volleys of their own. Like thousands of hornets, Timurid archers swarmed in front of the static Ottoman line, looking for a weak spot. Riders rushed in, firing off their bows at nearly point-blank range, before circling back, only to be replaced by a new wave of swift-moving archers. After a while,
they're still holding
in the Ottoman Azep ranks. For the Timurid archers, this was like sharks smelling blood. From experience, they knew that this part of the enemy line was feeling the pressure of the constant barrage.
Yo, this is scary. Yo, imagine looking at this from the Ottoman point of view. This is actually terrifying.
Riders focused their arrows on the wavering Azep infantry, trying to either force them to flee or bait them into charging forward. But Bayezid commanded the men to hold the line, despite the casualties, demonstrating his strong leadership. He knew that by now, the nomadic riders were low on arrows, and that the first wave was nearly over. Indeed, not long after, Timur's horse archers retreated, their quivers empty. They rode back towards the camps in the rear to replenish their ammo and get fresh horses, passing through the incoming wave of Timurid cavalry that switched from a trot to full gallop towards the enemy line.
Oh, but what will the Ottomans do when the Timurids get their arrows back?
Archers loosed their arrows when the central Timurid formation came into range. Moments later, Timur's cavalry crashed into the Ottoman left. In the center, the momentum of the charge pushed back the Azep infantry, inflicting severe casualties.
Yeah, they're already quite beaten back. I'm looking at the center. The center is what is the word? The center is the most weakest, most loose right now. That's the word I'm looking for.
The archers to focus all of their support on the Azep sector by lobbing arrows into the enemy line. The Sultan sent in the Janissaries to stabilize the center. Due to the ferocity of the Timurid charge, he had no choice but to commit his best infantry earlier than planned.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile,
these guys are ferocious, man.
Under Timurtas held their formation, but the more experienced Persian infantry drove them back.
Oh, the Timurids are winning!
Meanwhile, countercharged the elite contingent of Middle Eastern and Anatolian formations. Serbian swords and lances tore through their formation, penetrating armor and dismounting riders.
You know, I'm not surprised. In my personal opinion, the scariest thing about Bayezid's army is the Serbian. Would not want to fight against them.
In the center, while the Azeps continued to struggle for cohesion, the disciplined Janissaries held strong, inflicting heavy losses on the Timurids. Fearing that his center could break, Timur responded by reinforcing the attack. Back on the right, by now the Serbian heavy cavalry pushed down the gentle hill, driving the enemy back across the plain.
Bad idea. Bad idea. Bad idea. They could get swept. This is a bad idea. They can easily get swept. Bad idea.
Risked being dangerously separated from the rest of the Ottoman line.
Yes.
Bayezid
Bad.
the advance on the right and sent an urgent message to Stefan to restrain his men from advancing any further and pull back. In the center, the unrelenting
Serbians did work on them though.
Janissaries had worn down the Timurids and forced them back. Timur and his captains made sure to control the fighting withdrawal so it didn't turn into a rout. The Janissaries eventually broke off and did not pursue, using the time to rest, regroup, and replace broken weapons and shields.
Yeah, they're
Timur,
very cautious.
Seeing that his attacks on the left and center were repulsed, ordered the men back, as a new wave of archers was on its way.
And they're back.
Everybody.
Let's see.
Men to reform, stealing them for the next phase of the battle. Not wanting to give any respite to the enemy, Timur pulled back the line to make room for the renewed attack by his mounted archers. Now, with fresh horses and replenished quivers, the agile riders weaved their way through the retreating cavalry to begin another round of missile attacks on the Ottomans. Their main target in the center was, again, the Azep infantry, who were yet to fully regain their composure after the first wave. But this time, Ottoman archers, being on foot and on elevated ground, were able to fire more accurately than their mounted counterparts, their deadly volleys felling many Timurid riders.
Oh! Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. The Ottomans are doing some work. Alright, the Ottomans are doing some work, Bayezid. I see you, Bayezid.
Of the battlefield, Timur assigned 2 units from the rear to reinforce the vanguard in preparation for the next assault. In addition, he ordered his son Miran Shah to shift some of the Persian cavalry to the left wing, realizing that more force will be needed against the Serbian contingent in the next wave. Meanwhile, the swarm of activity continued in front of the Ottoman line as the steppe riders continued to chip away at Bayezid's men. While losses mounted, the Ottoman discipline held, the men valiantly withstanding a barrage of arrows.
This shocking, man.
Having reshuffled his lines, Timur launched the second attack. His horse archers once again gradually swerved around and began withdrawing to the rear to mount fresh horses and restock on arrows.
Yet again.
Bayezid could see the stronger concentration of troops in the Timurid center. Worried about the endurance of the Azep infantry, he moved all of his archers behind them to provide additional close-range support.
Ooh,
Additional
yeah.
Janissary units were sent forward to strengthen the center. From the Ottoman rear, Mehmet sent reinforcements to the Ottoman right wing, anticipating that this time the Serbian contingent will be struck with much greater force.
Yo.
In addition,
And you know what? He guessed right. He guessed
Bayezid
right.
tasked the Albanian mercenary cavalry to aid Stefan in the ridge sector. Timur, wanting to further increase pressure, ordered Shah Rukh to fully commit the left wing and moved 2 reserve units to bolster his numbers. Fully committing Shah Rukh at the last moment was a brilliant move, as it gave Bayezid little time to react. Timur was 1 step ahead.
Okay.
Received the attack on their right. In the chaos, the lines mixed. The overwhelming numbers Timur committed against the Serbian contingent were expected to pin down the heavily armored knights, while the cavalry on the right wing broke through to roll up the Ottoman line. Timur's fresh units on the far left managed to gain ground and fight their way across the ridge. But opposing them, Stefan and his veterans were unyielding, despite being outnumbered almost 2 to 1.
Yo, those
After
Serbian
about 30
knights.
minutes of fighting, the Ottoman right had stopped the enemy once again.
Those Serbian knights, man. What would be the Ottoman army without those Serbian knights, man? Which is ironic because they were the ones they got subjugated by the same Ottomans, and yet they're vital to the Ottomans, man. Freaking
It was
out.
now around noon. 2 hours had passed since the fighting began. In the center, the reinforced Timurid vanguard pinned down the Ottomans, the weight of the attack mostly focused on the Azep infantry. However, this time supported by the Janissaries and concentrated volleys of the foot archers, the Azep line held. But on the Ottoman left wing, the situation looked grim. The Anatolian infantry and cavalry under Suleiman buckled against Miran Shah's men. Bayezid reacted quickly, sending forward the Tatar mercenaries. But instead of
But that's the thing. Bayezid has reserves. Timur doesn't. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this is gonna be an Ottoman victory.
leading the Anatolians, the Tatars switched sides and joined Timur's troops,
Whoa, wait. Hold on a minute. What?
decimating the Ottoman left.
Whoa.
The reason for their defection remains unclear. As mercenaries, perhaps they thought that joining Timur would be more rewarding. Another possibility is
Okay, yeah, I don't know who's gonna win this. Okay, never mind. No, that was
they
unexpected.
decided to join their
That was
nomadic
unexpected.
brethren. Caught between the Tatars and the Timurids in a merciless crossfire.
Yeah, no. Let me pause real quick, dude. This is literally what I was saying. In my other previous Rise of the Ottomans series, I was saying, and I had people explain this to me. I was saying, why not just like the Serbians, like the European vassals, like why not just take this time to switch sides, you know, so that you could get your freedom back? But like what they did, but I had people look at me and explain to me, well, it's because, you know, they had like hostages and whatnot. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Many Ottoman troops under Suleiman's command fled, trying to get away from the slaughter. Bayezid urgently sent the armored Sipahi cavalry under his son Mehmed to prevent his left wing from disintegrating. Struck from behind, the lightly armored Kipchaks were no match against the Sipahi.
Yeah.
Unable to wiggle away, they were cut to pieces in close quarters. Nevertheless, the Anatolians were still hard pressed. Observing the situation and the implosion of the Ottoman left wing, Timur sent forward additional units to press the advantage. However, by around 1 p.m., it seemed that Bayezid succeeded in stabilizing this sector with Mehmed's reserves, despite the increasing pressure.
Yeah, my statement still stands. Like, Bayezid has reserves, you know?
But then, a calamity for the Ottomans. Among Timur's reinforcements, banners of Karaman, Aydin and Menteşe flapped in the wind. These were the Turkic lords, previously defeated by Bayezid during his expansion in Anatolia, some of whom fled to join Timur. The Anatolians serving the Ottomans could see the standards of their former brethren within Timurid ranks, and some of these who had been fighting under the command of Kara Timurtis Pasha on the center right also switched sides. Worse, by now, the nomadic horse archers had returned, lobbing arrows at the Ottomans as they rode past. Bayezid
Oh my gosh. Come on. Come on, Serbians. Now is your time to switch sides. Everyone's doing it.
and Mehmet both urgently sent more troops to shore up their wings. By now, Suleiman had lost control of the Ottoman left. With his personal retinue, he fought his way out and began retreating from the field. Seeing his son's banner abandoning the front line, Bayezid sent word to the Serbian Prince Stefan on the opposite wing, requesting his presence on the left to shore up the ranks and instill discipline. Timur's elite Mamluks rushed into the gap left in the Serbian line,
Bad idea.
parting Stefan.
Bad idea.
The breakthrough was stopped by the veteran Serbian infantry.
Oh, okay.
However,
Okay.
parts of the Ottoman right began to waver after enduring hours of fighting, defections, and a constant barrage of arrows.
I don't know who's gonna win
Crossing the
this,
battlefield-
but I'm not gonna lie. It seems like Bayezid is gonna
To
lose.
join the fighting on the left, Stefan sent a messenger to the Sultan, urging him to conduct a fighting retreat, or at least leave the command in the hands of his sons and withdraw to safety. But in Bayezid's mind, fleeing was unacceptable. He was not just some mediocre emir. He was the Ottoman Sultan who had doubled the territory of the empire inherited from his forefathers, undefeated in battle. Glancing once more to his left, Bayezid could see that the wing there had stabilized. Taking a deep breath and steeling himself, the Ottoman Sultan jerked his steed and led the remaining Sipahis forward. Joining the Janissaries in the center, Bayezid's presence lifted the spirits of the men.
Oh, morale boost.
Despite the punishment they've endured for much of the afternoon, the elite Janissary infantry frenziedly hacked their way forward, driving back the Timurid center. Meanwhile, on the Ottoman
But the Timurs still have reserves, right? And they still have those elephants, right?
left, Prince Stefan joined the fighting with a handful of lieutenants that were still alive, galvanizing the troops. Exchanging blow after blow, it was the Timurid troops who succumbed to the pressure.
Wow.
Seeing
What in
that
the
battle
world?
was turning against him, Timur sent in the last of his reserves.
Okay.
Some were to join Miran Shah to help finish off the Ottoman left wing.
Okay, let's see how this
The
ends.
rest were tasked with joining the attack against the Ottoman right and attempt once more to break the resolve of the Serbian contingent now that their leader, Prince Stefan, was absent. Timur also sent in many of the horse archers who had run out of arrows to join the desperate struggle. Finally, Timur unleashed his 32 elephants. Through
Oh!
the din of battle,
Okay, let's see what these elephants are made
the
of.
rolling of the ground could be felt as the Indian riders spurred on the massive animals. In one of the last orders of the day, the Sultan from Samarkand ordered the units in the center to clear a path for the Indian riders. Towering over 3 meters and weighing more than 4 tons, the shadows of the 32 massive beasts would be the last sight of many in their path. With iron determination, the Janissaries refused to yield as the giant beasts ripped right through them.
Yo, these Janissaries, bro. These Janissaries are... Yo. I'm not gonna lie, I gotta give credit where credit is due. These people are something else.
Gaping holes were left in the Ottoman central formations as scores of men were trampled by the rampaging elephants.
Yep.
Most of the frightened animals finally collapsed in the midst of the Ottoman soldiers, succumbing to the injuries they sustained from hundreds of sword blows. A few of the elephants that survived, punching through the Ottoman line, proceeded to flee the field.
They did the job.
Carnage by Timur's elephants had stopped. The damage inflicted was irreparable. Worse, the Ottoman army was by now fully committed. With no reinforcements left to bolster the left wing and fill the shattered units in the center, they were overwhelmed across the
Those elephants came in clutch.
entire battle line. Timur knew that now was the time. He ordered a general advance. Every man still able to hold a weapon
Every
was
man.
brought forward.
Every man.
The Ottoman
I'm rooting for you,
line
Timur.
was firmly on the back foot. Within the hour, large sections of the Ottoman line broke and fled. Most of the men on the left wing routed. Exhausted, some men simply gave up and collapsed to the ground. Others found the
Please,
strength to
man.
flee the carnage. Others still remained in the fight. Prince Stefan again urged the Sultan to retreat, but Bayezid refused. This time his resolve to stay and fight was perhaps to allow his sons to escape to safety. Prince Stefan formed an escort and fought his way out. The Sultan's son
MVP. The Serbians were the MVP of the battle. Like, no question that.
Mehmet, Suleiman and Isa managed to retreat, but Musa and Mustafa were captured during the fighting. As the Ottoman army was reduced, contingents still offering resistance were cornered and surrounded. In a
Yeah.
dramatic last stand, Bayezid stood valiantly on the hill of Katal Tepe with his Janissaries,
Bayezid dies?
fought and died next to their Sultan. They repelled waves of attacks until late in the afternoon, before finally being ground down. Late in the day, a breakout was attempted. Bayezid and his select retinue tried fighting their way eastward, but to no avail. Timur
Yep.
had won the day. His army suffered around
Timur is the GOAT. Timur is the GOAT.
15,000 dead and
The
wounded.
GOAT.
In stark contrast, some 30,000 Ottoman troops lay dead on the field, half of the army that fought in the Battle of Ankara. The terrifying death toll was evident across the dusty plain of Chubuk. The most disastrous, however, was the capture of the Ottoman Sultan, Bayezid.
So, why didn't the Ottoman Empire fall apart at this point?
With the crushing victory at Ankara and the capture of the Ottoman Sultan, Timur was now the undisputed master of Anatolia.
Anatolia.
He conquered one of the last Crusader enclaves in Asia, the Knights of St. John's Fortress at Smyrna. Timur restored the Turkic Emirates, most notably Karaman, incorporating them into his sphere of influence.
Wow. So you're telling me that the Ottoman Empire fell apart?
In a show of dominance, he sent a message to Bayezid's son and heir, Suleiman Çelebi, granting him the Balkan provinces. But Timur could not linger in Anatolia for long. He had to keep
Nah, bro. Timur's boss.
his army on the move, and he soon marched back the way he came. By now an old man in his 60s, Timur breathed his final breath in 1405 during a campaign directed at China. The empire he built did not survive for long.
Yeah, I bet.
Ironically, the Ottoman Empire he dismantled at Ankara did survive. After a period of civil wars, capable new sultans emerged. Within a few decades, the Ottoman Empire would re-emerge as the preeminent power in Europe and the Middle East.
So you're telling me that what the Europeans have been trying to do was accomplished by a foreign nomad conqueror? Oh man, I always hear these people saying, "Oh, my Europe is supreme. My Europe is supreme." Nah, but still though, those Serbian knights, MVP of the battle, hands down. Those elephants saved the day. Without those elephants, Timur probably would have lost. I'm not gonna lie, man. Anyways, you made it all the way here. If you made it all the way here, make sure that you subscribe. Go check out my other reactions on my channel if you like what I have to say in my videos, man. You got any suggestions? You already know. Go comment it down below. And don't forget to like so that my videos stay on the YouTube algorithm, man. That was amazing. All right, that was amazing, man.